Hi, my name is Kylie Bone, and I'm here to help you guys get ready for your first testimony as an expert witness. So, first, we're going to talk about the three different phases of trial. So, the first phase is when you get up on the stand and you express your voir dire. That's going to be providing your credentials, your qualifications of what makes you an expert. The next phase is going to be direct examination. That's that process of the attorney that called you to trial. They're going to be asking questions based on your research, your findings, your interpretations, your opinions on your research, and how those interpretations are supported based off of the evidence. The third phase is going to be cross-examination. This is going to be when the opposing counsel questions you on anything you answered during direct examination, your findings, your qualifications, and your reliability. They're going to question these things in order to make you seem unreliable, unfit, and unqualified for your testimony. So, how to prepare for trial without prior communication with the attorney. So if communication is present, it's a lot simpler. You're able to discuss with them their goals of the trial and what they're trying to get out of it, so you know what to focus on and how to prepare for that trial. If communication isn't present, you're going to have to review the case on your own. So that's going to be things like tests, your deposition, examinations, results, different things like that on your own to see what you think is important, or maybe what you think isn't important, to be able to use that and form a testimony for court. Another good idea is to prepare multiple visual aids. So a visual aid is going to be beneficial because it gives the jury something to look at. If you don't know what the direct examination is going to ask you, it's a good idea to prepare multiple visual aids so that depending what route they're going, you have something to support your explanation of your findings. Reasons why an attorney can object to questions being asked during cross-examination. So this can be things like compound questions, leading questions, maybe stuff that has been asked and answered, or hearsay. So compound questions are going to be questions that involve two parts. So this is difficult because one part might be true while the other part might not. So this can't be answered in a simple yes or no, and this is why it can be objected to. So you can ask them to rephrase that question, and that benefits you, because if you answer, for example, the question is, did you go to the store and did you buy those gloves? If you start out your answer with yes, I went to the store, but no, I did not buy those gloves, but they cut you off after yes, no one will ever know that you didn't buy those gloves, and it could come back to bite you. So it's a good idea to ask them to rephrase that question into two separate parts. So they can first ask you, did you go to the store? And you can answer yes. And then they can ask you, did you buy those gloves? And you can answer no. Another question would be a leading question, a question that suggests the answer. So that's an example of that question would be, did you arrive at the scene at 7 p.m.? Instead, you can object that question and ask them to rephrase to then say, when did you arrive at the scene? So instead of them suggesting the answer, it's better to rephrase that so that you're not put in a bad spot. Anytime you're answering a question, try to rephrase from answering yes, but. This is just potential for bad things to happen. The asked and answered objection is if during direct examination, they already asked you that question and you already answered it, and the cross-examiner chooses to re-ask that question. You can object on that, saying that it's already been asked and you've already answered it. Hearsay is when they ask questions that are outside your realm of expertise. If you're answering questions that you do not have qualifications or certifications to answer, that's just going to be considered hearsay and irrelevant. So you can object to those questions as well. How to enhance your direct examination. So the use of visual aids is huge. Anytime you're explaining something to a group of people, allowing them to have the ability to look at something helps them better understand what point you're trying to get across. Without that visual aid, they only have what your words are saying to go off of, and it makes it a lot more difficult to remember and comprehend what's being said. So visual aids are great. Simplifying any complex ideas. So although we know you are an expert in your area and using big words shows that, the jury is not going to know what you're saying if you're using these big words and not simplifying them into terms that they understand. Supporting any findings you have with evidence will help greatly, because then during your cross-examination, they have nothing to attack you on. So anytime you say something, it should be backed up with data, facts, or findings. Another thing that can enhance your direct examination is having a pleasant, passionate demeanor. If you're showing your comfort and your confidence in your answers, it's going to better come across to the jury, and they're going to better believe what you're saying. Next is the goals of the opposing counsel for cross-examination. Their first goal is going to be making you their witness. So anything in your findings or your research that doesn't help the side that called you or helps the opposing counsel, they're going to address. So it is important that you are aware and address those prior to trial so you know how to answer those questions. Everything else that the cross-examination is going to do is going to try to deem you unreliable. So they're going to attack your field of expertise. They're going to show that there isn't a scientific or technical basis in support of your testimony. So anything you say is opinion-based and not based on science. They're going to attack your qualifications. So if for some reason you don't have a certain certification or qualification, you need to address that during direct examination. Otherwise, you can bet that cross-examination will bring it up and it will be a bigger bite. So if you bring it up during direct examination, you have the ability to explain that away and explain why you are still reliable as a witness, even without those certifications, versus during cross-examination, they're not going to give you that time to speak. They're also going to attack your conclusions. They're going to either say your results were incorrect, you did something incorrect along the way, or that your opinion isn't based on science or based on the data that you actually gathered. They might use hypotheticals. So hypotheticals are hard because you have to answer them as a witness. These hypotheticals are going to want to be rephrased in order to keep you reliable. So if they ask a potential question that will make that answer seem like your work is wrong, you need to make sure they rephrase that in a better way before you answer it. And next, they're going to use learn treatise. So that's going to be using your published work against you. So you need to be aware of any work that you've published in the past or any work that you've done that contradicts what you're saying today. If you're aware of it and it needs to be addressed during direct, so it's not addressed during cross, then that's what needs to happen. They're also going to test the entire field. So this happens in previous cases where they're going to question your whole scientific field, saying that this is junk science, that your science is irrelevant, stuff like that. And then lastly, how to reduce your vulnerability during cross-examination. So stating your qualifications, your certifications, during direct examination will reduce your vulnerability during cross-examination. Because if you have any certifications you don't have, addressing those ahead of time will not allow cross-examination to bring those up later on. Making sure anytime you're stating opinions or interpretations that stays within your area of expertise. If you're going outside of that, that gives those cross-examiners fuel. That gives them ability to say what you're saying is hearsay and you're not an expert in the things you are saying. Make sure you simplify your answers. This reduces your vulnerability because if you're explaining away answers, it introduces the possibility of bias. If you answer with a simple yes or no, it doesn't give them much to go on to attack you on. So if you can, stay with simple yeses or nos. And most importantly, to reduce that vulnerability, be confident. Don't show your insecurities when you're answering questions. And just make sure you don't show your weaknesses. That's all I have for you guys today. I wish you luck in testifying. You got this. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any more questions. Thanks so much.